I never thought that my daughter-in-law publicly wished me dead. On my 74th birthday, she posted this about me. If this old hag finally died, my life would be perfect. 50 likes before I even cut the cake. Everyone thought I was slipping, misplacing jewelry, fumbling with remotes, forgetting my pills. But I wasn't losing my mind. I was being erased. She thought she was building sympathy online. What she didn't know was that I'd spent 25 years as a forensic accountant, and I was already building her indictment. The day they moved me into the guest cottage, Vanessa brought a pie. Fresh peach, she chirped, handing it to me like a bribe she thought I wouldn't recognize. Comfort food. You need to be surrounded by softness after that hip surgery. Michael stood behind her, quiet, his smile tight. It's just until you recover, Mom. You'll love the privacy. I nodded. I didn't say that I'd never asked for privacy. I didn't say the house we shared had 3 empty bedrooms and enough square footage to host a wedding. I didn't say a single thing because the truth was I was still groggy from the anesthesia, still aching, still convincing myself that this was kindness. But I noticed she kept my mail key. Don't worry, she said too quickly, too sweet. I'll bring anything important. You need to rest, not stress over bills and junk. 3 days later, I realized the landline had been disconnected. When I asked, Vanessa laughed. Nobody uses those anymore, Agnes. You kept getting scam calls. I'm protecting you. My cell phone rang less and less. Messages disappeared before I could read them. Then came the day she helped with my medications. Oh no, she said, flipping open the bottle of painkillers. This one's almost empty. Didn't the doctor give you a 30-day supply? He had. I started keeping a list, just names and dates and doses, simple, clinical. But I didn't tell them, let them think I was still weak. One morning, I wheeled myself up to the main house, said I wanted fresh air. The front door was locked. That night, Michael texted me from upstairs. Hey, Mom. Try not to come up without letting us know first. Vanessa's schedule's crazy. We're trying to keep things calm. Calm, like I was a storm to be managed. Like I needed corralling. I sat in that cottage holding my tea with both hands because they wouldn't stop shaking. Not from age, but from something deeper, the kind of trembling you feel when your gut catches up to what your heart's been trying to ignore. I used to walk that house barefoot, tracing the same hardwood floors my husband and I laid down in '86. Now I was being asked to knock. The pie was still in the fridge, untouched. I took it out and left it on the front steps. No note. The ants had found it by morning. 3 days after the pie, I became a punchline. Vanessa posted a video of me on TikTok. I was sitting on the couch in the cottage, remote in hand, squinting at the buttons. The sound was muted, but you could hear her voice behind the camera giggling. When Grandma's memory skips again, it got nearly 12,000 views and 100 comments. She's adorable. Poor thing. Hope she's got help. Time to take the car keys, lol. Neighbors started treating me differently. Gentler, slower. One even brought over a little pamphlet on memory care facilities wrapped in a ribbon like a damn gift. At church, Ellen Harding pulled me aside during coffee hour. We're all praying for your clarity, Agnes, she whispered, gripping my hands like they were about to slip out of existence. Clarity. I went home and unplugged the landline I'd had reconnected behind Vanessa's back. Useless now. Every call ended in polite concern, like I was halfway to a nursing home and didn't know it yet. And still, the videos kept coming. One of me asking for the thermostat password. One where I dropped a jar of pickles. One where I called a vase that pretty glass thing because the word slipped for a second, just once. Each time she'd slap a filter on it, add a song, and drop some cutesy caption like, "Every day is a new mystery with Grandma #memory loss #caregiving journey." She called them awareness content. She called me her content. Michael never said anything about it, just told me once offhand that Vanessa was trying to build a following and that I should be proud. I stared at him across the dinner table where I now ate once a week. Invitation only. She's monetizing your decline, I said. He frowned. She's just sharing our story. People love how open she is. I had to excuse myself before I said something I wouldn't recover from. Back in the cottage, I watched one of the newer videos again. Frame by frame, I noticed she'd cut out the part where I stood up too fast, where I caught the remote before it hit the floor. She didn't want truth. She wanted a character. I started documenting everything, not just receipts and bank logs, but the social lies, the videos, the comments, the distortions. I screen recorded everyone, backed them up to 3 different drives. If they were going to rewrite me, I'd keep the original manuscript. She thought she was building sympathy, but all she was doing was signing her name to my case file. Vanessa always saved her real face for when no one was watching. It started with the jewelry. I went looking for the pearl studs Edward gave me on our 40th anniversary.
Gone.
So were the opal ring from my mother and the brooch shaped like a crane. Nothing showy, just the pieces that held weight, memory. When I asked Vanessa about it, she let out a long sigh, the theatrical kind meant to show restraint. Mom, we've talked about your forgetfulness. No, we hadn't. And I hadn't forgotten a thing. She turned her back on me mid-sentence, like the matter was closed, like my words were just the background static of old age. That night, I checked the pill bottles. The label said 30. I counted 22. 2 of them, the ones for blood pressure and pain, had their caps loosened, like someone had opened them to help but didn't bother screwing them back tightly. I kept those bottles in a drawer by the sink. Now they were in the pantry behind a box of rice. I didn't say a word. I just went back into my room, pulled out an old photo album, and quietly slid a prescription log between the pages. My handwriting dated. 2 days later, I woke up to find my bedroom door slightly open. I always locked it now. Always. Except I must have forgotten, right? That's what they were counting on, little mistakes that could be blamed on my age. So I changed the lock. A real one. Brushed nickel, keyed on both sides. I installed it myself. Slow and stiff-kneed, but steady. 35 years of watching Edward fix things taught me plenty. Vanessa knocked that night, holding a casserole dish like a peace offering. I made shepherd's pie, she said, smiling too wide. You didn't come by today. I didn't open the door. Just said, not hungry, and went back to writing. She stood there longer than necessary, enough to let me hear the silence between us. The next morning, the casserole was still outside, cold and congealed. I left it there for the ants, for the message. That same week, I noticed my Social Security checks had stopped arriving in the mail. When I asked about it, Vanessa blinked innocently. Really? That's strange. Maybe you forgot to check your box. I hadn't. She had the key. But I didn't react. I didn't accuse. I didn't even flinch. I just sat with her in that silence long enough to make her shift in her seat, her fingers tapping on the counter like she was waiting for a cue that never came. She'd begun to treat me like a dying woman, but I was only just beginning to come alive. I hadn't lost my mind, just my patience. While she crafted viral moments in soft lighting, I crafted a digital archive. Every signature I'd made over the past 2 years was scanned, every prescription logged, every debit, every caregiver charge on my credit card annotated and color-coded. She thought my computer skills stopped in the 90s. She didn't know I'd done 30 years in forensic accounting, 20 of them consulting on white-collar investigations for the state. It wasn't rage that fueled me, it was clarity. Let her think I was unraveling. I was building her indictment. I met Claire Dupont, my old mentee, now an attorney. We hadn't spoken in years, but she replied to my message within minutes. Agnes, she wrote, if this is about what I think it is, I'm in. We met at a corner booth in a small cafe downtown. No noise, no distractions, just coffee and clarity. She looked stronger than I remembered. Same sharp eyes, same calm hands, but now there was steel in her voice. Tell me what's going on, she said. No small talk. I laid out the basics. The moved medications, the cut Social Security mail, the fake pity videos. I didn't show her everything, not yet. Just enough to prove this wasn't paranoia. Claire listened without interrupting. When I finished, she sat back and exhaled. Let her keep performing, she said finally. We'll collect the curtain call. That's all it took. We agreed to start quietly. No accusations, no confrontations, just gathering phone records, statements, logins, dates. If you're serious, Claire said, I'll help but you have to stay smart. You're not fragile, Agnes. But she's counting on the world thinking you are. I gave her a look. I built cases against men who had millions in Cayman shell companies. I said, this is a spreadsheet with lipstick on. She smiled. And with that, we began the quiet audit. I sat alone in the cottage that night with Claire's words still circling in my head. She's counting on the world thinking, you're fragile. I wasn't, but I was angry. Not the loud, flailing kind, the slow, precise kind that knows exactly where to land. I opened my laptop and created a new folder. I labeled it Restoration Plan. It wasn't just about revenge, not anymore. I needed 3 things. 1, prove my competence. Not just to others, but in a way that couldn't be twisted or softened by sympathy. I wanted a paper trail, so clean it could cut glass. 2, freeze her fraud before she drained 1 more cent from my accounts or convinced 1 more institution that I was too far gone to notice. 3, show her what real control looks like. Not Instagram likes or pity donations. Not pity, power, because I knew what she was building. A case for guardianship. All the signs were there. The hidden pills, the edited videos, the staged helplessness. She wanted to prove I couldn't live alone, that I couldn't manage my money, that I couldn't be trusted with my own name. Once that paperwork was filed, it'd be hard to undo. But I wasn't going to wait for that moment. She thought I was soft. She mistook my silence for surrender. What she didn't see, what she'd never see until it was too late, was that I'd already moved past grief. It showed up quietly, a thin envelope buried between a Bed Bath & Beyond flyer and a pre-approved credit offer. But I knew the seal, Capital Federal Credit Union. I'd never opened an account with them. Inside was a balance update, new caregiver card ending in 5542. Statement period, 3 months. Total balance, $139,672.92. The account was in my name. My hands didn't shake. Not this time. I walked straight to the printer and made 3 copies. Then I sat down and started reading every line like it was a confession. Gym memberships, Uber rides, organic groceries, private tutoring, all marked essential caregiver services. Every transaction was a fingerprint. The signature on the application wasn't mine, but the ink flow, the loop on the G, the slightly dramatic tail on the Y. I'd seen it before on birthday cards and on sticky notes that said, "Out with Michael. Back soon." Vanessa hadn't just taken my money, she'd taken my name. And the worst part? She wasn't even clever about it. One charge jumped out at me, $1,740. V-Click Plus event rentals, Willow and Pine Floral. The date was 2 days before her milestone mom Instagram party post, the one where she toasted her own mother in a rented garden and captioned it, "She's my heart. Everything I do is to make her proud." I remember that weekend. I'd asked if we could have lunch. She told me she was slammed with errands. Claire and I met that afternoon in her office. I dropped the statement onto her desk. She scanned it, brow furrowed, until her eyes hit the signature. "She forged you," Claire said quietly. "Same pen stroke as her brunch checks," I replied. Claire smiled. "We're keeping this." Outside her office window, people were walking by with coffee cups and grocery bags, unaware that someone inside was quietly preparing to pull the floor out from under a perfectly curated life. I looked down at the final page. Total amount flagged as unverified medical support, $41,280. That was the breadcrumb. Small enough to look like a mistake. Big enough to be a crack in the dam. Let her keep posting her videos. She thought she was crafting a brand. She was giving us her timeline. A week later, I got a letter from a neurologist I'd never heard of. "Your mental capacity evaluation is scheduled for April 17th at 10:30 a.m. Subject line. Referral from primary caregiver." I read it 3 times before setting it down on the table. The paper was thick, expensive, like it mattered more than it did. Primary caregiver, that was her now. I'd seen the pattern in other cases. You isolate the target, take control of their finances, then begin collecting professional opinions to strip them of their rights. She wasn't just stealing money. She was trying to steal me. I showed the letter to Claire over coffee. She held it by the corner, like it smelled bad. She's moving fast, Claire said, trying to get ahead of us. She thinks I'll panic, I said. Think I'll cancel and look unstable. Claire looked up. Will you? I shook my head. No, I'll show up. But I'm bringing a file folder thicker than a phone book. 2 days later, I got a call from my primary doctor's office. Mrs. Langley, we just wanted to confirm some details Vanessa sent over about your episodes. I sat down slowly. What episodes? There was a pause. She mentioned confusion, medication errors, a missed stove burner. She was concerned for your safety. I closed my eyes. I hadn't used the stove in weeks, not since she started doing all the cooking. She moved my pills. She locked the cottage door once and claimed I'd forgotten how to open it. She said I'd left the freezer open, the door that sticks unless you shove it with your hip. She was staging incompetence. I asked the nurse to send me copies of everything Vanessa had submitted. She hesitated. I'd like them sent certified, I added. This call is being recorded on my end. There was another pause. Yes, ma'am. Claire and I met again that night. I dropped the call transcript, the appointment letter, and a printout of Vanessa's Facebook post from the day before. Hardest part of caregiving is watching someone you love fade in and out of themselves. But I'll keep showing up always. 173 likes. She's writing my eulogy, I said. Claire didn't blink. I will write the rebuttal. That night, I lay in bed with a heat pack on my hip and a stack of labeled folders on the nightstand. It felt less like going to sleep and more like bracing for trial, because that's what it was now. She was building a case for guardianship. I was building a counterclaim for criminal fraud, and we were both running out of places to hide. Tara and Gwen came by on a Thursday afternoon, balancing a laptop bag and a cinnamon muffin. She used to babysit Michael when he was little. Now she worked in digital forensics and ran a cybersecurity firm out of her garage. I handed her my external drive. No rush, I said. But I need to know where those transactions came from. She nodded, already booting up her system. Do you know if Vanessa uses a VPN? I doubt she knows what that is, I said. She thinks incognito mode makes her invisible.
Tara smiled.
Then this won't take long. 43 minutes later, she turned the screen toward me. Every transaction tied to that caregiver credit account, she said, tapping the mouse. Logged in from the same IP address. I stared at the screen. This the cottage?
No, she said.
The main house upstairs, her MacBook. Same fingerprint on all login attempts. She pulled up a login report. One stood out. Tuesday, 2:12 a.m. location, Langley residence. Primary IP device, MacBook Air. Username, Agnes Laguerre. Account password used. Bless mom life. My lips parted. That's her Instagram handle, I said. She used it as a password.
Tara nodded.
A sloppy thief is still a thief. We froze the account that night. Locked it. New credentials. Fraud report filed with the bank. I didn't call Vanessa. I waited. The next morning, I heard her voice from the driveway.
No, no, no.
Try it again. I just used it on Monday. She was standing outside her car, phone pressed to her ear, credit card in hand. I heard her say, "There's money in that account. I just checked it." Then she laughed nervously. "No, I'm not trying to scam with anyone. I swear this is a mistake." I closed the curtain and made tea. An hour later, she posted a story on Instagram. Apparently, some people can't take a joke. This waiter just accused me of having a fake card. So embarrassing. The video showed her holding the declined receipt with a pout. A dozen people commented hearts. Someone called her so strong. She played victim like it was her native language. But her audience didn't know the stage was collapsing. Tara emailed me that evening. All transaction logs downloaded. Audit trail complete. Do you want them sent encrypted or hard copy? Both, I wrote back. Let's keep her guessing. The first breadcrumb was money. This one was digital proof. And there were more coming. The video went live at 7:14 p.m. on a Sunday night, prime viewing time. Just before everyone settled into their couches with wine and worry. Vanessa sat in the living room, lit like a candlelight vigil. Her makeup was soft. She wore a hoodie. Michael's probably to look smaller, younger. Her voice cracked right on cue. Please pray for my mother-in-law. She's declining fast. She paused, eyes shining. She forgets who I am sometimes. She wandered off last week. We found her in the garden, barefoot and confused. The garden? The same one I hadn't stepped foot in for over 2 months. Not since she changed the locks on the side gate.
This has been so hard on our family.
If anyone feels moved to help with medical expenses, we're accepting donations through my caregiving fund. A link appeared on the screen. I stared at it, not blinking. A GoFundMe with my name in the header. Support Agnes Langley's final chapter. The language was so subtle it could slip past you. Final chapter. She was already writing me off as gone. A tragic shell, a fading burden. Donations started rolling in before the video hit 2,000 views. Comments poured in. Bless you for standing by her. You're an angel, Vanessa. We lost my grandmother to dementia last year. Sending love and $50. Claire called me 20 minutes after it went live.
Do we shut it down?
She asked, already angry. No, I said, we archive it. There was silence on her end then. You sure? Yes. Every lie leaves a shadow. Let's keep this one lit. We screen recorded the entire video. Every comment, every donation notification. Claire contacted the platform under my name and requested a full back-end transaction history. Flagged for potential misuse of funds under false medical pretenses. She didn't know we'd seen it. She didn't know we'd saved it. The next morning, Vanessa floated through the kitchen, humming like grief had made her weightless. I sat on the porch with a blanket over my legs, drinking tea, playing the part. She looked at me like a living eulogy. I looked back like the ghost that was about to ruin her life. Michael followed her outside and squeezed my shoulder, voice full of guilt he didn't understand yet. She's doing everything she can, he said softly. I nodded. I know, I said. I'm watching her. That night, after the GoFundMe reached $5,000, I sat alone in the cottage, surrounded by silence. The kind that isn't peaceful, the kind that listens to itself and echoes back regret. I turned off the lamp and watched the shadows stretch long across the walls. The room was warm, safe, but something inside me had gone cold. I thought of Michael, 8 years old, hiding under the dining table during a thunderstorm, his hands over his ears, whispering, "Is it over yet?" I used to pull him out, hold him on my lap, tell him, "It's just noise." Now he was hiding again, behind her voice, behind her story, and I couldn't reach him this time. He'd stopped asking if I needed anything. He still kissed my cheek out of habit, but there was hesitation. Like, maybe part of him believed it. The fading memory, the lost names. And that was worse than rage. Vanessa had taken things from me, my name, my mail, my identity. But what hollowed me out most was what she was taking from him piece by piece, reshaping how he saw me. I picked up the photo of Edward on my nightstand. It was from our last trip together. He was in a blue windbreaker, standing on the deck of the ferry to Nantucket. Wind in his hair, eyes squinting against the sun. He hated photos. Always said, "What matters is what you do while the camera's not watching." I stared at his face and whispered, "We raised him to protect people, not to watch them break." Edward would have noticed by now. He'd have stormed the house, demanded answers, dragged Michael into the garage for a talk. He would have done something, but it was just me and a spreadsheet and a growing file of evidence that couldn't hug me back. I didn't cry, not really. But I let the weight of it press down. I sat in that chair for 2 hours without moving, letting the grief stretch its legs. It wasn't just about Edward or Michael, or even the betrayal. It was the silence, the empty porch, the birthday no one celebrated. The space I used to take up in their lives was now treated like a storage room, untouched, forgotten, slowly cleared out. And still, I didn't quit because underneath the ache was something harder, heavier. Resolve. The letter arrived on a Wednesday morning, folded neatly inside a white envelope with Michael's return address in the corner. Notice of guardianship, mediation, petition for review of mental competence, filed by Vanessa Langley, witnessed by Michael. They were no longer pretending. Claire met me at the courthouse steps the following Tuesday, her hair pulled back, suit sharp, no smile. "You ready?" she asked. "Been ready," I said. I just didn't know the room would be this formal. We walked in side by side, but I let her lead. Inside, Vanessa sat at the long conference table, dressed in white silk, like she was about to attend a baptism, not a legal proceeding. She stood when I entered, hands folded, expression pinched with concern. "Agnes," she said softly, as if we were reconciling. "We're just worried." Michael didn't meet my eyes. He looked down at the table, fidgeting with a pen like a schoolboy, waiting for a punishment he didn't think he'd earned. The mediator introduced himself, calm voice, not much eye contact. He read the petition aloud, every word landing like an accusation. Vanessa kept glancing over, waiting for me to interrupt, to protest, to look confused. I didn't. I just pulled out a red leather folder and placed it gently on the table. "Before we continue," Claire said, "we'd like to submit supplemental information." The mediator took it and began flipping through pages. No one spoke. The only sound was paper sliding against paper. Then Claire added, like a casual afterthought, "Oh, and by the way, the filing of this guardianship petition automatically triggered a routine review through the state's Elder Fraud Task Force." Vanessa blinked. "What?" Claire didn't repeat herself. Michael finally looked at me, pale, uncertain. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply said, "You wanted proof I was competent. I brought it." The mediator cleared his throat. "We'll pause here to verify these documents. M. Langley, Mr. Langley, you may want to seek legal counsel before proceeding further." Vanessa's face twisted, the first crack in her performance. Claire leaned closer to me and whispered. They walked into their own ambush. I sat back in the chair, hands folded in my lap, heart steady. They thought this meeting would be the beginning of my erasure. What they didn't know was the moment Vanessa filed that petition, she handed me the key to her undoing. The courthouse smelled like paper, old wood, and fear. Vanessa wore navy this time, hair up, pearls on, her version of humility. She sat at the front with her lawyer, a slick man who glanced at me like I was going to drool on myself. Michael sat behind her, hunched. Claire and I took our seats across from them. She didn't bring a briefcase. She brought a box. The judge was a woman, mid-60s, stern face, silver bun. She looked at Vanessa for all of 10 seconds before speaking. "Petitioner," she said flatly, "you claim full-time caregiving duties for your mother-in-law. Please elaborate." Vanessa stood. She didn't hesitate. "She forgets to eat," she said, voice soft. "Leaves the stove on, loses track of time. Sometimes she doesn't even recognize me. It's heartbreaking." She dabbed at her eye. "She's not safe on her own. We just want what's best." Claire didn't rise. She didn't even blink. She slid a USB across the table to the clerk. "Exhibits 1 through 9, Your Honor." The lights dimmed. The screen lit up. Video 1, Vanessa mocking me behind the camera as I asked about the thermostat. Video 2, her laughing as I dropped a pickle jar, captioned, "When Grandma's brain forgets gravity." Video 3, her birthday party for her own mother. Funded by my medical care account. Screenshots of donations, posts asking for sympathy, GoFundMe withdrawals for spa treatments, Botox, brunch. Then the audio recordings, the call where she lied to the clinic about my confusion, the nurse sounding concerned, the email requesting dementia evaluations with forged documentation attached. The courtroom was silent except for the soft clink of the judge's pen tapping against her folder. Claire stood. "We submit that the petitioner has engaged in deliberate financial exploitation and character defamation of a mentally competent senior, with digital evidence of both intent and execution." Then came the ledger pages, the login trail, the IP address matches, the forged credit application, the fake doctor's note, and finally printed in color, the post that started it all. If this old hag finally died, my life would be perfect. Vanessa's face fell apart in real time, a slow-motion crumpling. She reached for Michael's hand. He didn't take it. The judge gave Claire the floor. She didn't posture. She didn't raise her voice. She just opened the box and began to lay the truth out piece by piece, like setting a table for a meal no one wanted to eat. Exhibit 10, she said calmly. Wire transfers from Agnes Langley's retirement account to the petitioner's personal checking, labeled as caregiver reimbursement.
No receipts, no documentation.
The screen changed again. Transaction history, dollar amounts, timestamps. Exhibit 11, an email chain between the petitioner and a web designer requesting branding help for a platform called Care Queen Mom Life, filed under a business license registered 3 months ago using Agnes Langley's home address. Vanessa tried to speak. Her attorney placed a hand on her wrist. She swallowed it. Exhibit 12. Claire didn't even pause. Handwriting comparison. The forged credit application for a caregiver support line of credit signed by the petitioner, mimicking Agnes Langley's signature stroke for stroke. Behind us, someone gasped. The screen lit up with side-by-side samples. The audience didn't need a forensic expert. It was obvious. The loops, the tails, the tilt. Claire dropped the final folder on the table. Exhibit 13. Digital forensic analysis linking all account activity, login, fund transfers, device IDs to one location, the petitioner's upstairs MacBook. Recovered password, bless mom life. The judge raised one eyebrow, the only sign of emotion all morning. She looked at Vanessa. Do you deny these documents, Miss Langley? Vanessa opened her mouth, then closed it. The judge continued, voice low, steady, final. There is a clear and sustained pattern of fraud, deception, and emotional manipulation. This case is no longer a matter of guardianship. It is a matter for the district attorney. Michael's face turned gray. He looked down, hands clasped, jaw clenched like it might crack. And then the judge said something that cut through the room like cold metal. You targeted a vulnerable person, mastered theft and pity, and built a public persona on exploitation. You didn't just fail your duty of care. You weaponized it. Silence. Claire didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I looked at Vanessa. Really looked at her. She wasn't angry. She was exposed. Not just in a legal sense, but in that hollow final way when someone realizes the show's over and no one's clapping. Reporters were already scribbling. But I sat still because this wasn't about headlines. This was about the truth finally standing up without needing to raise its voice. When the judge dismissed the hearing, no one moved at first. Then Vanessa stood slow, stiff, as if shackled by her own silence. Her lawyer whispered something to her, and she nodded, not like she understood, but like she had nothing left to say. Michael didn't follow her. He stood rooted by the table, hands trembling slightly. His eyes finally met mine. Mom, just that one word, small, unsteady. I didn't answer. I waited. I didn't know. He said, she said you were confused. That you were leaving the stove on? That you forgot how to get home from the store. He swallowed hard, looked down. I believed her. The sentence hit heavier than any lie Vanessa ever told. Because it was honest and because it was his. I let her handle things, he said. I thought I was protecting you by staying out of it. He paused, voice quieter. I see now. I was just protecting myself. The courtroom had mostly emptied. Claire stood to the side, giving us space, though I knew she was listening. I looked at my son, the boy I raised to help strangers, to double-check his work, to say sorry like he meant it. You didn't just let me down, Michael, I said, my voice even. You let yourself forget who you are. He nodded once. Not defensive, not arguing, just nodding like someone finally realizing the lock was always on their side of the door.
I'm sorry, Mom.
I didn't say it's okay, because it wasn't. He reached for my hand, slow, unsure. I didn't take it. Not out of cruelty. Not even out of anger, just distance. Not everything breaks with a bang. Some things just wear thin. And when they do, they don't snap. They drift. Michael stood there for a moment longer, hand half raised. Then he let it fall. I'll fix this, he said. Start by fixing yourself, I replied. He turned and left quietly, following the woman he once thought he was saving. Claire came over and placed her hand on my arm. You handled that with more grace than I would have. It wasn't grace, I said. It was experience. Because when people show you their loyalty is conditional, you learn to stop expecting shelter in storms they create. And from that day forward, I knew forgiveness might come. But trust would have to be earned. The arrest happened 2 days later. I didn't see it in person, but someone sent me the video. Vanessa was outside her yoga studio, hair wet, wearing a zip-up hoodie and sunglasses. 3 officers approached. Calm and direct, she didn't resist. She performed. "What's this about?" she said, voice high and small. "There must be some mistake. I didn't do anything." But the cuffs still clicked behind her back. Michael followed behind them, silent, trying not to be seen, trying not to be part of it. He looked like someone aging in real time. The clip went viral within hours. The caption on a local news page read, "Social media caregiver accused of felony elder fraud." I didn't repost it. I didn't need to. Vanessa's sponsorship deals vanished within the day. Wellness brands dropped her. The meal delivery companies scrubbed her from their site. All those heartwarming reels gone. Her Instagram deactivated. She didn't walk out of the courthouse. She was escorted. Hair down now, no pearls, face blotchy, the look of someone who's just learned what real consequences feel like. Her bail was denied. Claire said the DA wanted to make an example of her. "It's rare to have such a clean digital trail," she said. "They love that." Michael came by the next morning. I saw him through the front window standing by his car holding something. Not flowers, not a letter, just standing. He finally knocked slow twice. I opened the door, but didn't step back. "Mom," he said, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to," I said. "Not yet." He held up his hands. "I'm not here to ask for anything." He looked thinner, like the guilt had started feeding on him. I believed someone because it was easier than confronting what she really was. "And I left you alone with her." I didn't correct him. "You didn't just leave me," I said. "You let her speak for me." While I was still standing, he nodded slowly, then offered his hand. I didn't take it. Not in anger, not in punishment, in boundary. Because I needed to know he wouldn't reach for me only after the damage was done. "I'll prove it," he said quietly. "That I'm not her." "I hope you do," I answered, and I closed the door gently. Behind me, the house was still, safe, mine again. And for the first time in months, I heard nothing from the main house. No laughter, no lies, no performance, just silence, honest and earned. The news spread faster than I expected. By the end of the week, Vanessa's face was on every local station. Phrases like calculated manipulation and elder abuse through financial coercion ran alongside her filtered photos turned grotesque. By contrast, the same videos she once used for pity became evidence. Clips of me dropping things, forgetting words, asking harmless questions, now played in courtrooms and news segments as examples of edited narrative. Michael didn't speak to the press, but he didn't defend her either. His firm issued a statement the next day. "We are opening an internal ethics review into Mr. Langley's failure to report suspected financial abuse." They didn't say alleged. They said failure. They knew. Claire stood beside me when I reclaimed the deed to the house. Vanessa had tried to transfer the property through a quiet quitclaim deed, forged, filed, and flagged, but she didn't expect I'd already revoked her access to my digital records. "I never lost the house," I told Claire. "I just let them pretend I had." The title was mine again. So was the mailbox key, the spare keys, the passwords, the name on every utility bill, but the dinner table was still empty. I made stew the next night, the kind Michael used to love. Beef, barley, rosemary from the garden. I sat at the kitchen island with 2 bowls, 2 spoons, just in case. He didn't come and I didn't call. Some victories are won quietly. Others just outlive the war. The cottage is mine again now, but I spend more time in the main house. I walk barefoot across the floors Edward and I laid together in '86. I leave the windows open. Let the wind move through like it used to when this place felt alive. Neighbors who once whispered now wave from the sidewalk. Ellen Harding brought over a pie, a real one this time, and asked if I needed anything. I didn't, but I let her sit on the porch with me. We watched squirrels tear apart the mums in the planter, and for the first time in a long time, I laughed. Not performative, not polite. Just released. Later that evening, I sat in my reading chair and looked through the binder Claire helped me organize. Labeled tabs, printed exhibits, signed affidavit, every lie cataloged, every theft documented, every silence recorded. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like someone who'd finished dragging her name out of the mud, only to find her family still standing on the shoreline. I'd gotten everything back except the sound of family, and I had no idea if that silence would ever break. If you enjoyed the story, please hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and let me know which city you're watching from. I'd love to see how far it travels. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.